Hi everybody and welcome back. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Barrage RDA. This is actually a collaboration between asMODus and Thesis himself from Vaping with Thesis. He is another reviewer here on YouTube, and he did go ahead and design this RDA and then went to asMODus and had it made. So I'm really proud of him. This is a 24 millimeter RDA. It does have like a top bottom type of airflow, which I'll explain that down below. And it does take a single coil. You can use this RDA in squonk mode or in regular dripping mode. So before I say anything else to you, let's go ahead and go down, take a look at the Barrage RDA by Vaping with Thesis and asMODus. Okay, so here we are with the Barrage RDA. This is a collaboration between asMODus and Thesis himself. He did come out and design this RDA. It says asMODus over here. It's got your scratch off authenticity. And then on the back, it's going to tell you what's included in the kit. When you open it up, it's very simple. You've got the RDA. You're going to have two Allen keys. One's going to be for your 510 and one is going to be for the build deck. And then you're going to get a bag of goodies. It does come with this extras bag. This extras bag, it actually has some extra post screws as well as a squonk pin, some O-rings, and then two fused claptons. I'm going to go ahead and open up this bag because I do want to change out the squonk pin. So let me go ahead and open that up. Now, this is the RDA. It is called the Barrage RDA. It is a 24 millimeter RDA. It does say asMODus here, and then really close in the very fine print designed by Thesis himself. So that is the bottom. It does have a protruding 510. It's really kind of, it's not protruding a lot, but it is protruding. So that's what I'm going to say about that. It does come in 4 colors. I do have the matte black. It does have this removable 810 drip tip. It is 810 compatible, so all your 810 drip tips are going to fit. And then it's got this O-ring right in the inside. If you notice, it's kind of narrowed right there, and I'm going to show you once I take the top cap off. Okay, and then you're going to see these heatsink fins. The heatsink fins are actually disguising your airflow. Your airflow is actually part of this. It's actually going to be right here, and then right here you can actually get to your airflow. You're not going to be able to see it through the heatsink, but it is there, and I'm going to show you from the inside. So let's go ahead and open this up. So here's the top cap. So if you can see, on the top cap, you've got an airflow here and you've got an airflow here. They are bottom airflow, but it goes up and it comes out of the heatsink fin. So there is an opening in here, you just can't see it. But that is your airflow right there and right there. Those airflows are actually going to be locking into your deck right about here. So it's going to lock in here and it's going to lock in here. So that's where your airflow is coming. This also has some locking notches. Really hard to see, but they're there. And this actually helps it bring down the whole cap to the base of the deck on the outside. So there's no lift or lip or anything like that. So here's a notch here and here's a notch here, and they do fit right into the notch right here and the notch right there on the build deck. Now this is a single coil build deck. It does have like a top bottom type of airflow. The reason why I say that is because, as I mentioned, the airflow is going to come down here and you can see sort of like a little slide or a little divot right here where it's actually going to bring your airflow from right here all the way down to hit underneath your coils. It does have these 2 notches here to help you place your coil, but you're not going to bring your coil tool all the way down to the base. If you do that, then you're actually going to have the coil too low, but I'm going to show you how to build on it. That's not an issue. Also, you're going to see that you actually have a squonk hole here and a squonk hole here. So once you change out your regular standard 510 to the squonk 510, it's going to be able to squonk evenly. You're going to have some build up here and some build up here. So I absolutely love that. Now on the deck are on the posts, these are Allen key posts or Allen screw posts. So what you do is when you're actually opening these up, this is going to lift up, but there is a tiny little lip right here that's going to catch your coil leg so that your coil leg won't go flying. So it's going to be very easy to build on. Your coil's literally going to be sitting right in the middle like this, and then we're going to be attaching them there. So let's go ahead and switch out the 510 pin and put in the squonk pin. So I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew this and do it this way, like the long angle. And then we're just going to replace it with the squonk pin that is provided. Oops, so there goes that one. And then take this one and put it right in there. And then go ahead and screw it back in. It's as easy as that to make it squonkable. And just screw that in. Okay, and it's all screwed in. I've got it nice and tight, but don't over tighten it, but you do want to make sure that it's tight. And now it is squonkable. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on a squonk mat. Okay, so we've got our build deck on there, so we're going to go ahead and build on it. Now I know that it comes with fused claptons, and I do have to say that I did listen to Thesis's opening video about this, so how he came up with the ideas and things like that. And I have to say that he did have this in mind for fused claptons, which happen to be my favorite. I always use my fused claptons from Coil Clout all the time in a lot of my builds because it is my favorite coil of choice as well. So again, I'm going to be using my own coils. These are from Coil Clout. You can get them at coilclout.com. Use the code Wendy and you can get 15% off. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and, because the legs are even like this is going to take them being separated. So I'm just going to go ahead and separate it. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and move this leg that way. Oops, wrap this way. So it'll make it like that. There we go. Just like that. Now let's go ahead and unscrew this. I've got my screwdriver here. Now watch how I unscrew it. What happens to the screw? The screw's going to go right up. You see? It opens up nice and wide for you to be able to fit your coil in there. And the same goes for this side here. And there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take my coil and I'm going to put it in just like this. And one on this side. Now these are wrapped differently than the ones that are provided, but I am going to just lift up my coil once it's been placed inside. There we go. So now it's nice and centered. Just going to go ahead and tighten that down. Tighten this one down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to lift up my coil. And there's a reason that I'm lifting it up, and I will show you. Now, when you lift up the coil, you do want your coil to be almost lined up with this top half here. The reason for that is because due to this like slide feature here for the airflow that it's going to come sliding underneath, you want it to hit the bottom of your coil. If it does not hit the bottom of your coil, it's going to be lacking in flavor. I can promise you that. I've already tried a couple different builds. This one's going to work just fine. Even, I was going to say au revés, upside down, because of the fact that I'm lifting the coil up. As long as your coil is lifted up, you're not going to have any issue. And again, you want it raised to almost the same height as the top of the posts. And we're just going to go ahead and cut it flush to the deck. There's one side and the other side. And there we go. There's our build. Very, very easy, no matter which way, because a lot of times people are, you know, when they find out that their coils do not have the legs facing the right direction, they get a little nervous. If you just flip it upside down, it actually fits absolutely perfect in here. So let's go ahead and start heating up our coil. Now, whenever you're pinching or strumming your coils, you want to make sure that you have ceramic tweezers on hand, because that's really, really important. You do not want to get a short or damage your coil. So I'm just going to go ahead and start pulsing my coil here. As you can see, it's starting to fire up right on the sides. Just pulse it. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll just bring out a leg here and pull out a leg here a little bit, just a little bit, to give it a little bit of breathing room. And then it heats up a lot better. There we go. Now it's starting to heat up beautifully. So again, just go ahead and pull it just a little bit apart. And then you can also pinch. We want to make sure that the hot spots are all out and that it's heating up from the middle to the outside. Very, very important. Go ahead and do that. There we go. Heating up perfectly from the inside out. So let's go ahead and get some cotton and we'll wick this baby up. And for the cotton, I'm going to be using my Kendo Vape Cotton Gold Edition. This is absolutely my favorite cotton. So I'm just going to take some off here. And I've got a piece right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and twist this up. Now, my coil is a 3mm in diameter coil. Okay, and then just pull it through. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to just get my scissors, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it to right outside of the build deck like this and right here. Now, at this time, I really don't have to thin this out because it's got a really nice size wicking channel, so I'm just going to put this in. But that's because of the type of cotton that I have. Some cotton is a little bit thicker than most or than others. So if it's too thick, you'll know it when you go to lay it in there. If it doesn't lay in there nice and smooth, you're definitely going to know it. Now you want to make sure that you're not blocking this little slide right here. That's very, very important because that right there is going to bring your airflow underneath your coil. So you want to make sure that you move your cotton over and that it is laying next to it. So it's sort of like on a little slant, if you can see it. And then that's it. We're going to go ahead and start juicing it up. Now I do have it on my top side single, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how the squonking works. Let's zoom in for this. I'm barely even touching it. It squonks amazingly. And if you notice that it literally pulls that juice right away. It's not sitting in the bottom. It pulls it right back. There we go. Yep. Really, really nice. Now for first time RDAs or first time builds rather, I definitely go ahead and I make sure that I'm saturating it from the top just the first time. And I do pulse my coil because I want to make sure that the cotton is getting saturated within the coil so that there aren't any dry hits and no ramp up time. It literally will, you know, be perfect the first time you vape it. So I do this on every single build that I do, no matter if it's an RDA, RTA, or anything else. There we go. Really, really nice. And that's at 48 watts. This is coming out to a 0.33 build, but it is a single coil. Let's just go ahead and right there. Just making sure that that's saturated. There we go. Yep, all done, all wicked up. Really, really nice. Get that cotton in there. All right, so we're ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I check out the notches that are on the bottom. I want them to line up with the notches on the deck. But even if you put it in a, like, let me put it in a different position. When I do this and I turn it, it's going to automatically lock down. If you notice, it goes flush with the base of the deck. So there is no lip or any overhang or anything else showing. So let's go ahead and go on top with the Barrage RDA by Thesis himself and asMODus. Okay, so here we are back on top with the Barrage RDA by Thesis himself and asMODus. And before I say any words about this RDA, I want to go ahead and have a vape and show you what he can do. So I'm going to go over my cons first, only because there's a couple, and then we'll go over my pros. Now, the first con is going to be the fact that there's no manual included. I'm not sure if this is the retail version. It looks like the retail version. If this is the retail version, I would definitely like to have seen a manual in there. The reason for the manual is I think that it should have made note of the coil positioning. In the literature that I received from asMODus, when I received this RDA, it literally said that the notches on the deck are to help you position your coils and get them the right height. That's not true. If you do make them that low with those notches, it's actually not going to get as good a flavor. It's going to be buildable. You're going to be able to vape it, but it's not going to give you the flavor it will if you raise up your coil as I showed you down below. You want your coils raised as right underneath the height of the post or right at the height of the post. The reason for that is because those little slides that are in there, you need those to be able to go under your coil to give you the most optimum flavor. So for me, I feel like it should have had a manual with that specific information in it, and whether it be a picture or a little blurb with the picture would have been perfect because a lot of people don't read the manuals, but they do look at pictures. So I definitely would have suggested that. So that to me is the first con, is the fact that it doesn't come with a manual. And if it does, it needs to have that information in there. The second thing that I'm going to mention is the fact that it doesn't have airflow adjustment. Now, for me, that's not a con. I do have to mention it because a lot of my viewers do like to adjust their airflow. They don't like them wide open. A lot of them like more of a restrictive vape. In this case, you're not going to be able to do that. This does not have any airflow adjustments. And I understand why, because of the tubes that are coming down from the airflow down to the deck. There's really no way for you to adjust the airflow. That to me is going to be a subjective con for those out there those of you out there that do like to adjust your airflow. For me, it works just fine. I love wide open airflow, so for me it's great. Another thing is going to be that there's no extra drip tip. A lot of RDAs right now are coming out with extra drip tips. This is sort of like a low profile drip tip. So for those that do like it a little bit taller, I think that maybe a nice acrylic one should have been acrylic, or, you know, one of those colorful ones have been provided just to have that extra. Now to me, it's, you know, I've got 1,000 drip tips. It doesn't really matter, but I would have liked to have seen that option in there. Another thing that is subjective, very, very subjective, is the fact that there's no logo on here. I would have liked to have seen a logo on it because to me, it's just too plain. But I do like, it's a con and a pro. It's a con because, you know, it would make it look nice. It'll give it a little bit more oomph on it, if you will. But for me, I think it's a pro that it doesn't. And the reason being is because I am so OCD that if my logo does not line up, I get really, really agitated. So in a way, it's good. In a way, it's bad, you know, depending on who you are. For me, it doesn't really matter either way. I much prefer not to have the logo on it so I don't have to line it up. But that's me. But I do want to mention it for those of you out there. That's pretty much it for my cons. And again, two of them are really, really subjective. The only one that I do mention is about the manual, which I feel like it should have been in there just to mention, you know, about the coil positioning, because coil positioning is really, really key in an RDA and an RTA. We all know that, and an RDTA. So anything buildable, it's really key. So that's very, very much needed to be said. Now, one thing I am going to tell you is that when you do get the coil positioning right, it's super flavorful. The flavor comes through amazingly. Whether or not you're dripping it or you're squonking it, you're going to get amazing flavor. As long as your coil is positioned right, as long as you raise up that coil, you're going to get tremendous flavor. Another pro for me is going to be the airflow. Again, I like wide open airflow. So for me, this is a perfect airflow. I have no problem with it. It's absolutely amazing. Another pro I do have to mention regarding the airflow is the fact that he did look out for the heat of the RDA. So no matter if this is a low profile drip tip, you're still not going to get heat, which I do like. I like the fact that they put the Heatsink fins and that it's actually made so it doesn't get too hot. I'm going to really quick go ahead and take a few puffs, just chain vape it really, really fast, and we'll see how hot it gets. Okay, it's not hot. All those hits, it did not get even slightly warm. That to me is a huge pro. That is something that I noticed while testing this that I'm really, really a fan of. I love the fact that he actually looked into that. And if you look at his presentation video, you could tell that he was actually working on that to reduce the heat, because nobody likes sitting there going and, you know, vaping and all of a sudden they're burning their lips because it gets too hot. It does happen, but we don't like it. So I love the fact that he did that. Another pro is that there's no leaking. You can over squonk this. Just keep squonking. Just keep squonking. And there's not going to be any leaking. Now, there will be if you tip it over. If you fill it up with e-liquid and you tip it over, it's going to leak. That's just...
it's physics.
You know, it's going to leak if you fill it up and then you turn it over. But if you're squonking and you're like me, you over squonk or you over drip like me, it's not going to leak. And that to me is a huge pro, because we all know we don't like to have hot e-liquid going on our hands, and I've got scars to prove it. So I do like that. Another thing is that the holes are perfectly sized for squonking. When you squonk and you just press the bottle just a little bit, it squonks really amazingly and it pulls it back down just as fast. So that to me, I do have to put it out there that he thought of that, and it's amazing. I love the squonking on this. I'm very particular on RDAs and squonking. Everybody who knows me knows this. I have RDAs for building or for dripping, and I've got RDAs for squonking. And I think of a lot of these factors when I'm thinking about my RDA for squonking. This definitely is a super RDA for squonking. It's amazing for squonking. It's got the airflow that you want for squonking. It's got the flavor you want for squonking, and it does not leak. So, and it's easy to build on, single coil. So that to me is just great. To be honest with you, this vape's very similar to a dual coil RDA, which I'm sure that he was going for. It's actually, it just gives me that feeling that it's not a single coil, that it's actually a dual coil. That's the feeling I get when I vape on this. Another key feature is going to be the build quality. Again, like I mentioned, it doesn't get hot to the touch. It doesn't get hot to vape. It gives you a warm vape, but it's not heating up the RDA itself, which is absolutely phenomenal, especially being that the inner chamber is reduced because it's got those airflow channels in there. You would think that it would get a little bit hotter because of the fact that it's got less room for the heat to actually dissipate, but that's not true. In this, it works absolutely perfect. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my cons and my pros. I want to congratulate Thesis for designing this. You did a really, really phenomenal job. You thought about just about everything that is really, really important to a vapor, even as a reviewer, and I really give you big props for that. Again, the only real super con that I have to this is the fact that there's nowhere that tells you about the coil placement. So I do think that that should be noted. But other than that, I mean, it's a phenomenal RDA. Airflow, flavor, looks, construction, easy to build on. It's easy to wick. All those are definite pros, and it just came out great. asMODus, props to you too for actually making this. This does come in 4 colors: stainless steel, black, matte black, as you see, gold, and rainbow. I would have loved to have seen the rainbow, really, because I'm a rainbow fanatic, but that's okay because I got it in black and it still matches, so no worries. But yeah, so that's it for my review. If you like the review, please give it a thumbs up. Down below in the comments, I want you to tell me, what are your main features for a squonk RDA? What do you look for when you're looking for an RDA to squonk on? And I'll see you in the next one.